all aspiring and emerging leaders out there. Welcome to yet another episode of the Full Stack Leadership Podcast. The conversations cover three aspects for being an effective leader: leading self, leading and influencing others, and creating business impact. Hi, I'm Krishna Prasad, your host. Come, let's dive right in. Today, I'm in conversation with Vijay Chakravarthy. Vijay is a very seasoned business leader with over 30 years of corporate experience. He has, over the years, developed and demonstrated leadership expertise in managing large-scale programs for digital transformation, IT product development, and business process efficiency improvements. He has held leadership positions in Oracle and Deloitte Consulting. In the last 15 years, he has played several senior leadership roles in IBS Software Services. IBS is in the business of digital transformation for large customers in aviation and travel domain. His last role was Senior Vice President, Global Sales Ops, managing large marquee clients. Vijay also shares his passion for sports and performing art. Vijay, welcome to our show. Great to have you here.
Thank you, Krishna Prasad. I'm indeed very honored to be part of the show today, and I really thank you for having invited me for this show. And happy to share my experiences with the audience.
All right. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, and great to have you here again. So Vijay, before we jump into some leadership topics and some details, maybe it will be great if you can take our listeners through your own personal leadership journey up to now, and more so, if you can kind of highlight some of the twists and turns along the way.
I started my journey way back in 1987 after I graduated from the University Visvesvaraya College of Engineering. So it's been in excess of 37 years of corporate journey, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
It's been exciting in phases, and I'll talk through that. Having said that, my initial 12 plus years was more in manufacturing. What I'm very proud of to share with the audience is the fact that I was very fortunate to have diverse experiences, starting from the manufacturing industry at the TVS Group of Companies in 1987, followed by a stint where I moved into business consulting. In 1998, I joined NIIT, and that was a transformational change. So to talk about twists and turns, this was an engineered twist, I would say.
Okay.
Moving away from mechanical engineering to information technology, I started off doing business consulting after I had done my program in SAP. Interestingly enough, though I had qualified and trained on SAP, I never ended up implementing SAP projects. At NIIT, I had the opportunity to lead a large implementation in a public sector government company in Bangalore, where we implemented Oracle Financials in a record time.
Oh, wow.
That was, and in those days, I would say an amazing achievement, because to work with a government organization and implement the entire financial module in about 105 days flat was indeed an awesome achievement. Yeah. So moving on from business consulting and ERP implementation, I then, for various reasons, opted to move on to back office because of the fact that I had to adapt myself to the needs of the family too. So I did a lot of back office work at Deloitte in terms of their SAP consulting operations, and then at Oracle, where I was leading the shared services business for Oracle Financials. So this was way back when it was established. My actual role, again, the twist there was I actually joined to head and set up the quality and assurance function, which included rolling out Six Sigma, and also setting up a team for SOX compliance,
Oh,
and
okay.
then documentation teams to help enable process documentation and compliance. But as things turned out, in about 8 months' time, because of the circumstances that prevailed, I was actually, in addition to this role, asked to lead the revenue operations for Oracle financials. At that point in time, it was a 21 billion business. And to suddenly jump into finance operations was a huge transformation for me. But I successfully ran that for almost 3.5 years before I moved on to other areas. So, yes, there have been quite a bit of turns in the career. Some of that were engineered, some of that was driven by the needs. And there were, of course, a few which were driven by the needs of the organization. Key message here is I think it's very, very important for people to adapt to the changing needs. Of course, today's changing needs, we will talk about it as we talk through this podcast.
Yeah.
But as a starter, it's very, very important to be open-ended and prepared to accept challenges and not be fearful of the unknown.
I normally keep alerting my listeners for these knowledge nuggets. So I already got one, Vijay. Thanks for that. Don't fear the unknown. Okay. Excellent. I know like it has been a long leadership journey and probably you covered half of it. Already you've highlighted a couple of twists. So before we get to your next phase, if I may, help our listeners understand, okay, what were some conscious things you did as a very young leader? I'm assuming you're still young at that time, but a young leader. What were some things which you can kind of recall, which will be of help for our listeners?
Yeah, I think the key thing was in my mind, I was very, very open to accept changes. I was willing to discuss with the leadership in terms of the needs of the organization at that point in time, and very adaptable. And I would attribute a lot of that success to my first 12 years in the engineering industry. Because even there, when I started my career, I started there with production, moved on to production engineering, then also had a stint in terms of being a quality professional before I ended my career being in procurement. So it was an entire spectrum of responsibilities that I was kind of exposed to. And fortunately for me, I think you get an opportunity to really get exposed to many of these functions, provided A, you are willing to take it on as and when opportunities spring up. Two, you're working in a relatively medium-sized organization where these opportunities are visible. Typically, in small and medium organizations, you do get to see and hear about these opportunities, and it's up for you to grab on as and when they crop up. But in large organizations, it's very difficult unless you go through a formal process where you need to really apply for, wait, perform, or even prove yourself before you move on. So I would consider myself pretty fortunate that way, that a lot of opportunities sprung up. Not that I grabbed all of them, but I was pretty clear in terms of how I wanted to kind of carve my career path, which is I did want to broaden my capabilities in terms of skills. Because when I joined IT industry, I was probably already 11 years late, and I don't think I would have been ending up competing with the then youngsters of the world. So I had to get in at a certain level where I brought in my domain expertise and started focusing on business consulting.
Okay. I think that's a great point what you made. But a couple of things what you mentioned. Of course, how did you reuse or leverage some of the experience which you picked up either from a quality function or procurement function, and how you did your own adaptation to the new environment? What gave you that confidence? Like, did you consciously tell yourself that, like I need to develop that confidence, or it comes natural to you?
Actually, more than what gave me the confidence, I think it is the confidence of the management to
Uh-huh.
actually provide you with those opportunities
Mm,
and
mm,
egg you on to say, everyone is learning in the process, you are in it, and just jump at it. What I was very, very particular about, though, was to spend time with people who were in that function to understand, acquire knowledge.
mhm.
And it so happened that I also started a voracious habit of reading the relevant subjects to actually stay not just tuned to the market, but even ahead of the market, so that you could bounce off a lot of these with your team members and start learning in the process.
Mm,
So I
mm.
think it is more the opportunities and the confidence that the management provides. It's the ability to grab them at the right point in time is how I would portray it.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think that's again a great point, because I think you made this two, three very, very important things. First of all, recognizing that there is some opportunity out there, and also making a choice that, okay, is this opportunity to be chased, or should I just leave it alone? But it's also a two-way street. It's not just about you chasing an opportunity, making sure that the people who are responsible for making decisions, you need to go and convince them proactively, having conversations. So is that what I hear? Both two ways. One is how you chase the opportunity, but also how the leader or people in decision making, maybe also develop the confidence in you that, okay, you will be able to do that.
Absolutely. It's always a two-way journey.
Mm-hmm.
It's a constant feedback system or feed forward system that I got used to,
Mm-hmm.
because typically, feedback happens much later in your entire journey. Whereas
Mm-hmm.
I was introduced to this concept by one of my leaders in respect to feed forward, which I
Uh-huh.
thought was just not a coinage of words, but truly, if practiced, was very, very useful for shaping up the careers of the leaders.
Uh,
Because you would constantly get information on what role you were performing, how and what you were doing well, what are the areas of improvement on an ongoing basis. It's
mm,
like typically what you call having a godfather or even a mentor along with you as you
mm,
perform in these roles.
mm.
So that's again a two-way journey, because you need to pick the right mentor who is really interested in ensuring that your journey is successful,
Yeah.
and he or she really is committed to that path. So my advice to the young generation would be to be cautious enough and pick the right kind of leaders and mentors who would probably help them in the journey. The mentor need not necessarily be in the same organization or in the same industry. He
Mm-hmm.
can be pretty much be ever present anywhere else.
Mm.
But I think I firmly believe there are different schools of thought on that, but I firmly believe that having a mentor along your journey will definitely help accelerate and set you on the right path.
Okay. Okay. So, one kind of curiosity question, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners will be also keen to hear, is during the course of your leadership, journey, etc., has it always been one or two close mentors whom you trusted, or along the journey you had more mentors? How would you develop the trusting relationship, for example, with mentors? Any thoughts?
Yeah. So for me personally, it's not just been one or two mentors. Of course, even as I speak today, I have a lot of my earlier leaders whom I stay connected with and have my sharing of knowledge and stuff like that. But depending on what roles I was performing, I did have multiple mentors in my journey. There have been occasions where I badly was in need of a mentor, but did not have a mentor too. So it does happen that way,
Okay.
right?
Hmm.
But that's part of the journey. When you are in a long stint, it is bound to happen. So it's ideal to have somebody. So to your question, Krishna Prasad,
Mm.
actually, They were different mentors during my entire phase.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
I missed the second part of your question.
So how do you go about identifying? I mean, is it
Yeah,
it just happens by accident? Can't possibly happen by accident.
it's not definitely
Yeah.
by
Yeah.
accident. One of the
Hmm.
things I always keep telling my team members
Yeah.
and the people whom I mentor is look for the strengths of the people with whom you work with.
Hmm.
Always ensure that you learn from their strengths. Don't worry about their weaknesses, just move on. For you, it is very important in your career journey to actually keep assimilating what you learn with respect to the strengths from various leaders that you come across. You would be fortunate enough to work with leaders across the globe in today's environment. Many would be fortunate enough. So you definitely have a great opportunity to learn from each of them. Let's first have that mindset to say that each one has something little to offer to us which we can learn from. As long as we have that kind of a mindset,
Yeah.
I'm sure you can pick up the positives and let go of any negatives you see. And that is how, when you start seeing, and there is also that natural chemistry that you start aligning towards a mentor, but it's first your own mindset which kind of helps you decide on whom do you seek mentorship from. And if you see that person is able to really add value to your career, has a similar line of thinking, or even sometimes somebody who thinks very differently than you.
Yeah, I think this probably is a more difficult thing because we naturally tend to agree when the person on the other side is in line with what you think, but the moment there is a maybe a diametrically opposite view, sometimes it kind of rattles us. But what you're saying is, hey, look, be open to listen to maybe a completely different view. See, one thing which a lot of emerging leaders try to imitate their role models or their mentors. How do I necessarily leverage the strengths of a leader whom I see, but I want to be myself?
Absolutely. I think that's a very pertinent question. And this is where the choice of adapting the skills and taking it forward is so, I would say, contextual to the situation you are in. So, the two parts to it in this whole acquisition of knowledge and leadership skills, you may not actually look out always for the right skill that is needed at that point in time or in that context. You have to basically, if you start seeing benefits of somebody's capability or skill, it could be as simple an example as somebody who's an excellent communicator. That's a skill. Is a charismatic leader and is able to convey the organization needs so effectively. Now, you may not be in a position where at that point in time you do want to acquire that skill, but it's very important that you observe some of these positives, make note, and make use of it as and when you need it. So, assimilating knowledge in this entire journey, given that typically you end up having long corporate journeys, you have to really start looking for such capabilities which will help you make an effective leader in the future. Empathy towards people is another example. Not all leaders who I've worked with have been passionate towards people.
Okay.
Some people come with very, very clear, defined objectives of achieving their goals. And in the process, they're least concerned about uh, many aspects that are very important for the journey in a medium to long term. They're leaders who are very narrow or short sighted, who want to get to their goals in the short period of time. So you got to be very, very careful on what type of skills you would want to acquire from them and let go of those that you don't want, because there are certain basic skills that you do need to as a leader when you have sought or when you're looking to or you're aspiring to have a long journey in corporate, right? So you can't ignore certain aspects of it, but not all leaders that you work with come with all those skills. So it's important that you pick and choose some of those.
Okay. Okay. Very good. Yeah. No, I think that's a very important observation. And what's your view on being yourself? And, even though you pick up different skills, maybe you learn from your mentors, observe, any thoughts on being yourself, being your true self?
Yeah, it's very, very important. Now, a
Mhm.
lot of what we become eventually in our corporate careers are the way we have grown up in our childhood
Mhm.
and our own accomplishments during our journey, as well as our own accomplices that we have along
Okay.
with us, whether it is our friends, classmates, families, whatever,
Yeah.
right? A lot of it shapes up our mind, and it's that first conviction that we have that we can, with confidence, perform in our roles. It's very important that our own identities are definitely maintained. You can acquire capabilities from others,
Hmm.
but please ensure that your own identity, you could be as a person, a straightforward person who can probably convey messages very crisply.
Hmm.
If that is what you are, you should continue to be that. But if you are conveying that message in a very harsh manner
Hmm.
to a team, the skill that you need to acquire is how can you communicate the same message differently,
Okay.
right? I
Mhm.
think where I keep insisting on a thin line that has to be drawn between being aggressive and being assertive.
Okay. Mhm.
Typically, people end up on either side of the line, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
It's very important in leadership communication to be assertive, and clarity of thought is very, very important. You
Hmm.
don't necessarily have to be aggressive. I have seen that people who have been aggressive have not lasted for very long. People who work with them, they were not able to carry them along for too long.
Okay.
But
Mhm.
when you're assertive and you communicate crisply,
Hmm.
you are able to carry on your team members and also get what needs to be accomplished. So that's very, very important.
Yeah.
It's again, you will learn some of these things as part of your own experience. There is no one way to clearly define what is the difference between the two, but you will definitely learn it as you go through.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
also important when you work with leaders, they point out to you saying, hey, you did a great job, but I thought you were a bit aggressive. A
Ah.
feedback of that kind would definitely help. So you should be open enough to take such kind of feedback and work on it.
Okay. Okay. I think that's a very good point because many times when we talk to emerging leaders, there seems to be this confusion. Result orientation equals aggressiveness. If not aggressive, then not result oriented. So I'm glad you pointed out that distinction between being aggressive versus being assertive.
Yeah, that's something I learned for myself because I had
Uh-huh.
had the opportunity to work with people of different kinds. And
Okay.
I soon realized the guys who were aggressive definitely in short term were good achievers and successful.
Yeah.
But in medium term, they were really falling apart because they can't sustain it.
Yeah. Yeah.
They may be able to sustain the aggressiveness, but the team cannot take it on.
Okay, that's another good point. So I think, Vijay, I think we covered a lot of aspects about, especially being an authentic leader, spotting opportunities, looking for strengths in the people whom you work with, etc. I just want to hear your thoughts on how do you make your leadership presence felt in in a variety of workplace settings. It could be in meetings, it could be in presentations, etc. What are your thoughts around that?
Yeah, personally, my own style has been very collaborative approach. As you know, there are various styles of leadership that each
Mm, mm,
person is exposed to and eventually evolve to carry forward. I would say I had a more collaborative approach, but being very assertive and very, very particular on certain aspects with respect to expectations. So the way I'd look at it is essentially we need to pick our team. with whom we're going to drive some of these uh, goals that we want to achieve, right? So it's very important that I personally believe you should surround yourself with people of different skills and who are probably even more capable than you are in those respective areas. But you should be willing to listen to them. It's just not having them on your team and then not letting them perform. So, one is collaboration. Two is, again, in respect to my own style of leadership, I believe in delegation. When the boundaries of what is expected are clearly laid out, and that is where the ability of a leader comes into play, I think we should let the team members or the next level leaders to really take it on and perform. That is when you drive a sense of responsibility within them. I am not the kind of leader who would be nitpicking on stuff as long as the objectives are achieved and there is an agreement on the way we achieve it.
Okay.
So it's very important that we lay out these goals very clearly. And of course, in today's environment, a lot of things are changing. Some of the arguments of school of thought is that the conventional method of leadership may or may not work, given that we are living in a VUCA environment. We're living in a environment which is driven by AI, which is a different topic for itself. What changes with respect to leadership? I've been very curiously and closely watching some of these aspects. Sure. As to what are those additional capabilities a leader should acquire just to handle some of these situations. Predominantly, my observation thus far, and maybe it will evolve over a period of time, is that the fundamental tenets of leadership virtually remain the same, right? So whether it is people, process, your ability to execute and stuff like that, they all remain the same. I think in a AI driven environment, leaders need to be staying ahead of what's happening with respect to technology and how it can actually enable your own business. Number two is setting the right kind of KPIs or OKRs for the team. Because if AI is doing a majority of the work, how are you measuring the people productivity part of it? So you need to ensure that you have the right kind of KPIs that are orchestrated so that you not only enable automation, but you also enable people development. So these are some of the skills leaders will have to keep watching out for and adapt in this journey. But as I reiterated, the fundamental tenets of leadership continue to be the same. And it's important that you learn and adapt yourself to the new environment. Thankfully for me, I've been through a lot of phases in this 37 years where similar business environments have prevailed or have been triggered. Right? Especially in the manufacturing industry, every 4 years, there's a defined recession that happens, whether you like it or not. And mostly it is global recession. And the impact of that in India is pretty heavy because India, with respect to manufacturing itself, is far lower in the strata when compared to the globe. But one thing, again, there I learned, having worked very closely with the Japanese in my manufacturing days, was in a typical cycle of 4 years of recession, I would never see knee-jerk planning or knee-jerk reactions by the management. There was always a very clearly articulated strategy which they used to adopt during recession, that by the time you completed and realized that the recession has hit your business, which is about a year's of time as you get into it, the organization used to plan for a boost in capital investment. Which is very, very contra to what we have seen in IT industry. And this is a huge learning I had from the manufacturing industry. So when you actually start investing into capital, they clearly know that they can source and procure equipment, machineries that are needed for the next phase of the journey at a much, much cheaper rate. So they would go around globally trying to source
equipments and machineries and buy them at the best of rates and the best of quality.
Okay.
That process would take easily about a year or so.
Okay.
Then ensuring that the shipment happens, the trials happen, all that would take another 1.5 years. And then you have time enough to erect, commission, and be prepared for the next phase. So typically a 4-year journey is so effectively utilized. And the Japanese did it so consistently that many of the Indian organizations in manufacturing started to adopt them.
Okay. I see.
And when I actually came across the first recession, if you remember, hit the IT industry. IT industry was very nascent way back in 2000.
Yes.
And when the first time the recession was confronted, the industry was confronted with recession, there was a lot of knee-jerk reaction by the leaders. I don't want to name the leaders, but I've had very serious discussions with some of the senior leaders in the industry where I used to exchange some of my thoughts, and it was very well appreciated. That is when people started realizing that it is time to invest into people when a recession is kind of hovering around.
Exactly.
Because we call people as the assets of IT industry, but we hardly invest in people, and we try to act by following the hire and fire policy, which I personally am not a firm believer in, unless you have done everything else and you're left with no choice.
With no choice. Yeah. Okay. No, I think that's a great point what you made about people being an asset. So, we need to invest in people and not treat them as some entries in Excel sheet, I would say. Right.
That's the sad part of it, which today, when you talk of imitating, many people are under pressure and just follow what is being told to do. You need to have I would say, the guts to stand up and question some of these actions and really take it forward with respect to what is your conviction on how you handle it. And I was fortunate enough to have leaders at that point who encouraged me to do it. And of course, we were very, very serious with respect to investing in people and ensuring that we had them ready for the next level, right? So it's not just that you make a statement and walk away and protect your people. It's also that you take the people along and do the right things to ensure that they are equipped and they're ready for the next phase.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. No, I think some very important points that was raised. One is, make your presence felt by showing that conviction and having that conviction that, we are doing the right thing. And so that brings me to, I think it's a great
One more
segue.
point was stand up and confront. Do not just buckle down on what you're told to do, right? To me, I use this very jokingly with my team members. One is either you convince your leadership or you confuse them, but stand up to your conviction.
Stand up. Yeah, sure. Yeah. Okay. No, I think that's a great segue into, I think you spoke about business, investing at the right time, looking at, a little bit longer term horizon, etc. So many of the emerging leaders and sometimes even senior leaders, they're so focused on just getting things done and execution. How would they have to think about the kind of impact they're able to create on their business in a larger, scale? So what would be some of your thoughts?
I think first thing for a leader is to ensure that he understands the DNA of the organization, expectations of the senior leadership and the senior management or the owner of that organization with respect to business performance.
Okay.
That's very, very important. Unless and until you're on board on that, you're not going to really set up high performing organizations and achieve what you're set up to or you're asked to achieve. Because you need to first have that conviction that you are doing the right things as expected by the organization. And in this journey, I've come across many times people having this conflict and virtually losing out in the first few months with respect to a change or with respect to an initiative they need to drive, just because they have not bought into it fully, right? Now, that's very, very important. And I had a very interesting anecdote, which was actually told to me by one of my customers. And
Okay.
this was a part of the project that we were actually driving way back. And this is, I'm talking about 25 years back.
Okay.
It was as simple as this. So there was a team which was having very specific requirements with respect to the naming of a website and the color theme of a website. It was as simple as that.
Okay.
And that virtually had delayed our project by a few months because the team never got to a situation that they could concur on what way to go forward.
Oh.
So as a leader, I think the first thing we have to do when you're leading such projects, I was a project manager at that point in time. And the first thing I did was walked up to the owner of that company who was our customer and told him our predicament that we are delayed because of this. And he was so quick to act that he just called a meeting of all his team members, including our team leadership, and just made a few very firm statements.
Okay.
It could sound a bit audacious at that point, but it was very, very pertinent. And he used the analogy saying, look, I am the father of this organization and you are my children. The prerogative of naming you and this color of the skin that you have is mine and not yours.
Okay.
That was enough to tell the message. And then the project was smooth after that because nobody even objected to it.
Okay.
So it does sound audacious, but that's a very simple way of communicating what he means, because you can't keep dragging on certain things just because you're not able to make a decision. And to that extent, I also just a few days back happened to see a video of Shiv Kumar, former chairman of PepsiCo, right?
PepsiCo, yeah.
Who very clearly said that the factor that determines agility is also the procrastination that the leadership has. And he kind of very aptly put that as he defines agility as a multiple of people, process, and procrastination. So you can achieve agility only if people are not procrastinating. So I think that's a very good way to crisply put across what a leader thinks. And you can see that most of the times leadership does procrastinate on very simple decisions, which is the unfortunate part of it.
So what is one important message for let's say, an emerging leader and even some senior leaders? One is, of course, procrastinate, but I'm sure there are all these complex organizational topics they deal with, and maybe it's difficult to, let's say, come to a decision. Are there some ways where they can extend their influence? Of course, in your case, you walked up to the owner and maybe he made a decision, but in a typical setup, how as a leader, you can extend your influence among the larger leadership community?
Yeah. So I have to myself formulated a postulate, I would say.
Okay.
Which I would reflect back as and when I was in such situations where decision making had to be very, very effective. And given the fact that many a times you have varying environments in an organization, leading from being caustic to even being very supportive, you need to have a consistent way of how do you really handle such scenarios, right? And to me, the postulate I used to reflect upon was the 7P postulate. Of course, the number of P's now has gone much bigger.
Okay.
But if you were to imagine a seesaw or an equilibrium, right? In any organization, you have the positive side of it and the negative side of it. To strike a balance, you need to ensure that you manage these P's. And to define what they are, a few of them, on the positive side, I would say passion, process, people, policies.
I see.
Stay focused on these on the positive side. You will always have the pressure on the negative side where there is corporate politics. There is pessimism into things that are being driven. We talked about procrastination. Many of these lead to a situation where it creates panic, right? So it's very important that you stay focused on the positive piece and not spend too much time on the negative, because it will over a period of time, virtually erase the negative piece. So that's the 7P postulate that I advocate, which I used to personally follow.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, so no, I think this is one more very powerful knowledge nugget, which I'll definitely capture. So, all right. No, I think this has been, kind of really good how an emerging leader can connect back to the business. I think you spoke about staying focused on the key performance indicators, not get into the trap of procrastination and so on. One last thing, if I may, is, especially in today's world, you also said you do a lot of reading, you go to different places for, kind of maybe gaining some knowledge. What are some of your favorite go-to places, for learning, if our listeners want to know?
Personally, for me, the learning is more experiential than about reading from books.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, the way I learn is right now, I've been spending a lot of time trying to work with the startup ecosystem in the city of Bangalore.
Okay.
That's an awesome place where you get to learn a lot of stuff, and you also have your own strengths, which is mentoring, which you can probably contribute back to the ecosystem.
Mm-hmm.
So my process of learning, at least in the last year or so, has been not based on books, but
Okay.
more based on experiences working with the young leaders from various entrepreneurs from the various industries.
Mm-hmm.
There's a diverse set of people who are coming in various industries, who are willing to put their heads up and take on to solve many of the problems that we are confronted with today. And it's an exciting journey and an excellent place to learn. So if people have the appetite, it need not necessarily be the financial appetite, but the appetite to learn, I think they can contribute a lot into this ecosystem.
Okay, excellent. No, I think that's a great piece of advice.
And a lot of it dates back to my own days in manufacturing,
Okay.
where we had a Japanese consultant.
Okay.
And, typically the management team back here, whenever he would come for reviews every 3 months, would prepare a whole lot of presentations and all that, keeping it ready for him, nice kind of way to articulate, communicate, all that. But clear message that I learned from him was, the moment he would come in, he would never go to the boardroom or the presentation room.
Okay.
He would just sneak into the shop floor.
Shop floor. Okay.
And many times I've seen him behind machines, below machines, trying to learn what was there.
I see.
So the message I took out from there is seeing is believing, which is what today, if you really kind of contextualize and change it, experience is very, very important. Experience is where you will start to believe what is your ability to really make a difference.
Excellent. Okay, Vijay, I think that was a great piece of advice to our listeners. On that note, I again deeply appreciate, you coming here on this episode, sharing your thoughts, views. So thank you very much. Appreciate your time again.
My pleasure, Krishna Prasad, and truly appreciate you having given me this opportunity to share my learnings. I hope this is useful for the larger audience. Thank you.
Yes, I hope so too. Thank you. Thank you very much and have a nice day. I thank you very much for listening to this episode of the Full Stack Leadership Podcast. Please don't forget to share your feedback, any suggestions on improvement or specific leadership topics to talk about. Feel free to share the link to this podcast with your colleagues and friends who you think might find it useful. Thanks again, and I'm your host Krishna Prasad, signing off for now.